Welcome to the Writing Black Joy podcast, where we celebrate the joyful narratives of the Black creatives writing their names on the pages of history and on our hearts. I am your host, Sophia Robinson. Here, you'll find conversations with amazing Black creatives, learn more about their projects and the joy that they're bringing into the world, find inspiration for your own creative ventures, and dive deep into the topics that shape our narratives. The guests on this podcast are all sorts of creatives, from writers of fiction and nonfiction to playwrights and actors, visual artists, podcasters, and so much more who are bringing joy to their narratives. So, if you are a writer, a creative, or a lover of the arts, or you simply want to hear some good conversations, keep on listening and welcome to the show. Hey folks, welcome back to Writing Black Joy. And I'm kicking off this season with a dream guest, Bolu Babalola, who is also the author of the book that saved my life a couple of years ago when I was having a variety of issues with my living situation. That book was called Honey and Spice. And so imagine my delight when her publicist reached out to let me know that there would be a follow-up to this called Sweet Heat and that I would have the opportunity to interview Bolu. And by the way, Honey and Spice came out a few weeks ago. I'll drop the links in the show notes. So, a bit about the author. Bolu Babalola is the author of Sunday Times bestselling and Waterstones Book of the Year shortlisted collection, Love in Colour. She's a London-based writer and a lover of love. In 2016, she was shortlisted in 4th Estate's BAME competition for her short story, Netflix and Chill, a hilarious teen romance. And since then, she's worked as a writer for books and TV and as a cultural commentator, where she calls herself a romcomoisseur. This conversation packed a punch as Bolu and I discussed how she ended up gaining a law degree before going into writing, Beyonce, and honestly, I want to have her back for a whole episode just on that, her love for romance novels and how she sees romance as an expression of how we as people see ourselves, the importance of female friendships and how they can be the love of our lives, how Kiki and Malachi brought about their own sequel, the difficulty of writing a sequel, how she approaches writing both books and short stories, how she has worked to keep her writing personal, how she knows what's next, how running is helping her write, and so much more. One of my favorite additions to the podcast has been the lightning round that I ask my guests at the end of each episode. And I thought I'd throw it out there to you, my listeners. So if you want to answer any of the lightning round questions, go over to www.writingblackjoy.com, click on the link that says leave me a voice note and leave me a voice note. And if you can't think of which lightning round question you want to answer, you can tell me what is bringing you joy right now. All right, settle in for the conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Writing Black Joy. And as I said in the intro, today I have with me the writer, all the things, Bolu Babalola, and I am so excited to have you here with me today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, excellent. So let's dive right in and talk about a little bit of your journey as a writer. Have you always enjoyed writing? Have you always seen yourself as a writer?
Absolutely. I've always been compelled to be a writer. I've always been a writer. I genuinely believe that. I've always been making up stories for as long as I can remember. I was a voracious reader when I was younger. And as soon as I realized I can make up stories, I did. And I wrote my first story at 7 years old. It was about a haunted mansion. And I remember writing it and feeling like I was flying. And it was for a school assignment. And I got the highest grade in the year in the class. And she spoke to my parents about it. And that was the first time I recognized that I was good at writing. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. In high school, I was writing little rom-coms and Comic Sans on my big computer, and they were being passed around the class, like almost like a episodic thing. So yeah, writing has always been a joy of mine, and it's just a vocation and a passion, and it's all what I always imagine myself doing in whatever capacity.
I love that. When I read your bio, it said you're misleadingly also went into law. Do you still practice, or was that just a
I'm
class?
Nigerian. I'm an eldest daughter of a Nigerian family. My father is a lawyer. And the thing is, like, when you are a reader and you love history and you love politics, which I adored all of those things, the natural progression is you're going to study law. What else are you going to study? You're going to study creative writing. That wasn't a thing. So, yeah. And so they said, okay, you know, you want to be a writer. We support you wholeheartedly. You just have a good degree behind you and then you can do whatever you want. So that's what happened. But the minute I sat in my first lecture, I knew it wasn't for me. I didn't even try and practice law. Everybody was stressing about training contracts. I didn't even bother because I knew I would be depressed as hell if I did it. So after graduation, I got into PR and media and got a job at the BBC. And yeah, that was my trajectory. It was always media adjacent.
Mm, I love that. And as an aside, what's this about Beyonce's Lemonade? I have to know.
Yeah, I have a master's degree in American politics and history from UCL, and I studied a lot of things. But I studied African American history and also Southern history in particular. And through those modules, I use that as a vehicle to write about Beyonce and Southern Black women and Southern Black music in general, and situating it within a socio-political context of America and the South. And how Black women defined themselves and resisted all of these controlling images of themselves and stereotypes through their music. And it's so funny because I feel so almost really proud of myself because what I wrote then has almost come into fruition through her career. And I find her such a fascinating study because I mean, I can talk about Beyonce all day, but what she is now, I've always seen it. She's always told us that that's who she is. So, yeah, I think she's a fascinating character study, and I think she says so much about America itself.
Yeah, I love that. I have long been fascinated with Beyonce, and
Mm,
I just love somebody who refuses to be defined by a genre or by like a particular like that is my I love it. I love it because I
yeah,
don't like boxes. So
yeah,
anybody
exactly,
who refuses to be defined is always going to be someone I look up to, I admire. So I absolutely love that as well.
exactly.
You said you were writing rom-coms when you were in high school,
Mm.
and I came to discover you through the story of Kiki and Malachi, which Honey and Spice. So, and I love a good love story. Like it, I always tell people I thought I was going to write epic fiction, but so far all I've written is romance novels, which I'm super
Listen,
happy with.
romance is epic. Don't let anyone tell you different.
I love it. And what drew you to first writing romance novels, and then we'll specifically dive into the sort of characters themselves.
I think it was the first thing that I read I mean, I read voraciously, like I said, and I read everything, but I think those are the things that I kept on coming back to. I just feel like there's something so vulnerable and exposing about romance, and it says so much about our fears, our expectations, how we see ourselves, how we see the world. Even what we are attracted to is so revealing. And I thought it's such a vulnerable kind of exploration of the human psyche. And I think we can explore so much through romance that I think that's what I was drawn to, but I couldn't vocalize or verbalize what that was. And also in terms of the rom-com part of it, humor. Humor does the same thing for me. I feel like romance and humor kind of go hand in hand because they're actually very vulnerable states. They're so exposing and they reveal so much of us. And I think that romance is such ripe, fertile ground for humor because can be so innately embarrassing, you know, and exposing and infuriating.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to my sister about this the other night, like remembering being a teenager and the teenage crushes and everything. And it's like, it really does have an impact on you. And you sort of think, observe people in that sort of state of being in love. And as you said, being vulnerable. One of the things I also liked about the book was that it also was about friendship. And for me, I feel like friendship to me is like, whenever people talk about love stories, I know about the romantic love, but for me, friendship is love too, right? So I
Yes,
love
yes.
stories about friendship. And I'm curious, was it important for you to build up that aspect for the characters?
Um, Yes and no. It was important in the fact that it wasn't even something that I specifically thought about. It was very natural. For me, it's very natural to write about female friendships. it's weird for me to write about romance without writing about female friendships. I think that female friendship can often be the defining romance of our lives. Men can come and go. They can be very flighty, but our girls hold us down, and those are really some of the formative relationships in our lives. And often they're the relationship that tell us what we deserve. So it was something I thought about in terms of it being important to me, but it almost was a natural thing for Amina, for instance, to take such precedence in Kiki's life, especially university, where like we have such intense relationships. You're away from home, you're creating a new world, aside from the one that you're used to, and so these friendships really become family to you. So it was really a joy for me to explore that intimacy as well.
Yeah, I love that. I really enjoyed it. About as much as I enjoyed the romance aspect of things, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And of course, the sequel is is coming out soon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what made you decide to write a sequel? Like I'm always curious about like, sequel versus telling a different story. Like what made you decide to go for a sequel?
Kiki and Malachi decided for me. It was just simple as that. I do a lot of deep character studies. Like I knew that for me, Honeyfest was just the beginning. This wasn't just quote unquote a college romance. This was it. And I almost wanted to prove that this is a love story for real, for real. And I also wanted to, because for me, Sweet He was also written as a standalone. So it's a
Mm,
sequel, but it's also, you can just go into it fresh because it is also a love story about when you're in your 20s and you're juggling your late 20s, reaching your 30s, when you're juggling so much and you've discovered so much of yourself, but so much of your life and your world and your friendships are changing and evolving, and how much of it stays with you as you grow up, and sometimes what about it do you have to let go? And
mm,
Sweet Heat is about kind of reevaluating the things that you can cling on to, um, and the things that you can let go of. And if you're going to cling onto it, is it worth it? Have you grown with it? Is it evolved? Is it good for you? It's those things that we're asking this question. So it's like Kiki and Malachi, their story was it was complete but incomplete. It was at the very start of
mm,
their journey for me. But Sweet Heat was also addressing so many of the things that I had gone through since and writing the book. Not like in terms of the relationship stuff, but in terms of just like, the normal conflicts that you go through in your quarter life crisis and the balancing
mm,
and the reevaluating of everything that you know. So it is a sequel, and sequels are really, really hard to write. Sometimes I was like, why the hell am I writing it? Um, but actually, I feel like when I addressed it from just like, I just know these characters inside out, and I'm just going to write about what these characters will be going through at this stage of their life now. It
mm.
became easier to navigate. Not easy, but easier to navigate. It flowed a bit easier.
Yeah. And one of the things I think it indicates too is like I remember years because I blogged for years and years ago I wrote this blog post about how like every 7 years you're a completely different person. And it's just this
Mm,
idea that like the person who you are when you're 19, 20, the person who you are when you're 29, 30. I'm like heading to 50 now. And like
mm,
I am not the person I was in my
no,
it's like I feel like a completely different person. Someone who's write a book about me now and read a book about me when I was in my 20s. I don't even know if you would recognize.
really.
And it's so I love it in a way because I feel like it gives you recreate yourself, and I feel like if you're intentional about it, it can be such a great experience.
It can. And I think what's so interesting about writing a sequel is that like these are the same people, but life has happened.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you will recognize Kiki. Kiki still has, she's still like very like determined, still very sharp tongued, still very intelligent, still very right. And Malachi is still very soft and sweet. But they've been a little bit jaded through life and a little bit wiser. And like, so even if the core remains the same, the things around it changes and the form it takes evolves as well. So it was a very fun exercise for me as a writer to explore that, and a challenge as well.
I love that. And do these stories take inspiration from real life? Like I've always wondered that when people write sort of
I don't
fiction,
know.
how does it? Yeah.
Does anything come from real life? I feel like every experience is experience. So
Yeah.
things you read, things you hear about, just like I don't know. I wrote about love before I even fell in love, but I was so fascinated by it, and I was a student of it. Really, I was an observer and anthropologist. So experience can really be anything. It doesn't need to just be personal experience. I feel like actually sometimes when it's personal experience, it can be quite limited. I feel like it's just like things that you read, things you explore, things that you just sit down and think about and how you marinating your mind. And it can even just be like, as a writer, as a young woman, a young black British woman like Kiki, you go through changes. Like we said, we evolve and we grow. So, okay, how am I going to put that experience in a different prism? You know, I
Mhm.
didn't have a
Mhm.
college sweetheart. I never broke up with a college sweetheart. You know, I never had a devastating breakup like that. But I know what those feelings are like. And so I can channel them into this particular story.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that. I know obviously you've also have published a collection of short stories.
Mm.
And how was it in terms of the difference between, I guess, writing short stories and writing a novel? Obviously, a novel is like a much longer project. You kind of following a thread a lot longer. How did you feel about the different experiences between the two?
I wrote novels way before I wrote a short story. I never even
Oh,
wanted to write a short story. Actually, even my short story that got published, that got me into publishing, that was just like, oh, I'm just writing a short story for a writing competition. I didn't expect to win. It was an exercise for me. So then when they approached me to write, when I got the opportunity to write a collection of short stories, I was like, because I literally was like, short stories are not even my thing.
mm,
So novels are actually a much more comfortable space for me. Short stories are quite hard. I
yeah.
think people assume they're easy because of the brevity, but actually that's why it's difficult because you have to contract a lot into a short space and the form is very challenging. But I actually
Mm,
do think that if you know how to write a novel, it should be easier to write a short story. The reason is because I feel like you actually do have to do a lot of character work for a short story to work. The same,
mhm,
honestly, almost the same amount. The amount of character work that I did for short stories are very strong because it has to like pack a punch, and you have to be in the world so quickly, and you have to be able to
mhm.
convey emotion so quickly. So I do think that writing short stories have actually made me a better writer, and in a way that I actually think that I'm happy that like Love and Color came out before Honey and Spice. I feel like it paved the way for Honey and Spice. I said it. I can't remember. I think I said it in the acknowledgements of Honey and Spice that like so Yoruba twins are called Taiwo and Kehinde. And Taiwo is actually the youngest twin. The youngest twin in Yoruba law comes out first and tries the world first. Taiwo literally means like taste the world taste the world first. And I think that that's what Loving Color did. It's the firstborn, but it's really the youngest. And it came out to try the world first and kind of pave the way for the real eldest, which is Honey and
Mm.
Spice, Kehinde. And I just feel like it came out in a way that was meant to be. But yeah, I was always a novel writer first, long form writer first. And I just think they're two amazing forms. But yeah, short stories are hard.
It's so true because I think a short story has to capture it. You don't have a lot of room, a lot of time, a
Yeah.
lot of space to capture people's attention. And I struggle to even read short stories. Like I'm not going to, like you, I wrote
Mm,
essays and stuff, but I never really wrote them and I never really read them because I felt I always, I have a friend who writes short stories and I say to her, the problem I find with short stories is that if they're really good, then I get really angry at the end because I want to know what's going to happen next. And if I'm
had
not
a lot
angry,
had a lot of people mad at me with Loving Color at some of the endings, but I was like, that's how you know it's good. I promise if I wrote more, it wouldn't work because it wasn't built to be more. It was built for this and it was built to make you want more. So I'm like, your frustration is a success.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If it's a good short story, I know because I'm
Yeah.
mad. What? You left
Yeah,
me there? Whereas if I feel like about it, I was like, it probably wasn't that.
exactly. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly what you mean. So, what kind of obstacles do you face when you are? Because obviously you've been writing for a long time, but I always feel like writing and sort of going all the way through to publishing are almost like two different things, right?
Mm.
So, were there any obstacles that you faced when you then went from the writing like I always tell people, I love that phase where like you can photocopy it and send it to your friends. That's fun. Like to go through the
Mm.
publishing is a different stage. So, what obstacles did you face during that sort of phase of
What,
things?
before being published?
or before being published, or even writing for publication, knowing that this thing that I've written now, I'm actually writing it as opposed to just writing it for my friends. I'm actually writing it to go out there. I don't know if that felt different or,
No, it
you
didn't
know,
feel that
how you
different, you know.
understand.
I don't think it felt different. I don't think it felt different. I've always in my head written for an I don't know. I've just had a very personal relationship with writing, and so it stays
Mm-hmm.
personal. I fight for it to stay personal. So, and I have really great editors who understand me and my writing and my process, and we work really well together. So I don't. I feel like the biggest obstacle in general in terms of writing is myself, getting out of my own head, um, not putting pressure on myself, letting things breathe a bit. Uh, really, but I think I don't see. I I write in a very specific way, which is like to almost like know I'm being read, but write as if I'm not going to be read,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's how you keep some of the purity in the craft. Is just to really keep it personal, because I feel like when you are writing, even for an audience, people are like, "Oh, you're writing towards the market." I'm not actually. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what I love and what I like to read. I am thinking about Black women, let's say, but I'm not thinking specifically of what specifically do they want to see. I'm just have a fealty to the vision and my mission and the story that I want to tell. Yeah, and that's what I do.
Yeah. And I love that because I have this conversation with other people all the time and we talk about writing for the market. And I can't like, when I first
Mhm.
started writing, it was like, think about what your audience wants. I was like, no, that actually
Oh.
freaks me out. Let me write the thing and think about the
And also
audience. Of
sometimes the audience doesn't know what they want until you give it to them. So
course,
you have to just
absolutely.
create that for yourself.
Yeah. And see what happens next. I love that. And what's been your proudest moment through this process?
Oh, oh God. I think it's
Or,
definitely just being stopped on the street by people who have been touched by my writing, stopped in a party, stopped on a train, you know, those things, get messages. Somebody's written, I've got two people who have written their thesis on love and color. People have written essays on honey and spice in school, and loving colors on the syllabus for some GCSE. So I think
oh,
that it's the impact and the lives that the stories have, touched, and the impacts that it's had just is like very humbling and mind blowing, and I can't even really get my head around it.
mm,
Yeah, just very wild. Yeah, just people just telling me how much it means to them, especially Black women, especially young Black women, especially like if they're like in their teens. I'm just like, that is exactly what I wanted to be when I was younger. And that just is better, genuinely better than any award
mm,
ever, ever. It's all you can hope for and all you can pray for.
yeah. I absolutely love that. So I'm curious, when do you know what is next? Because obviously earlier when you talked about, writing this standalone sequel, as you called it, Sweet Heat,
Mm,
you said the characters kind of told you, and I always tell people I believe in that. I'm like
mm.
books talk to you, your characters talk to you. I'm a believer in that. So when do you know what? I know obviously this is just coming out, so you're not
Oh, that's a
like,
really great question. I have ideas percolating in the back of my mind, and I write a bit and I leave it, and I write a bit and I leave it. And if it keeps on disturbing me, I think that's when it's the next one. I have one that I've been playing with for the past year. It's not quite ready yet. I realize that ideas need to gestate a little bit. But I live with it for a little bit. So let's see if it's going to be the next one. But that's how I know really, when it keeps on bothering me and I can't get rid of it. And every single time something happens in life or interacts with the idea, I'm like, oh, light bulb. And then these blurry shapes begin to become more defined. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so that's how I'm sorry, I'm a very woo-woo person when it comes to writing and creation.
I am too, though. And, like I always tell people, I always say, like, the book taps you on the shoulder, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Listen, I'm not even gonna try to explain it to you. Just take my
Yeah,
word for it. That's what
yeah, no,
happened."
I honestly believe, like, and I'm gonna sound a bit Kanye here, so sorry. Apologies in advance. But I honestly believe that creation is so powerful at its
Mm,
essence, and it's a very spiritual thing. And so, um, I feel like these things do speak to you. I feel like if you're in tune with your craft, it does speak to you. You just have to be tapped into it. Um, and I think sometimes publication and the mechanism of it all can get in the way of that. So you just have to actively remind yourself to tap into, why do you write? Why is this a compulsion for you? You know?
Mhm. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I'm a full believer. I always tell people I'm like, I believe in magic. I think creativity is full out magic.
100%. I truly
Much that you can't explain or describe, and I don't
believe
care.
really can't. That's why when people are like, "Oh, how do you get into writing?" I'm like, "Do you write?" That's how you get into write. First of all, write. You can't be a writer without actually writing. You have to be able to. You have to do it. I'm sorry. There's no getting around it. You have to do it.
100%, I agree. Well, I've just got a quick lightning round. I usually put like
Good.
maybe 4 minutes on the clock, and then we quickly fly through the questions. So we'll do that before wrapping up. So first question: what is bringing you joy right now?
What is bringing me joy right now? It's a great question. Um, Planning my well, actually, there's two. One, I just
Mhm,
opened the hardback of Sweet Heat. Like I got a box of the one, and that was I don't know. I feel like so far out of all of them, I don't know why this one touched me the most. I think it was the hardest to write, and I feel like I have improved so much as a writer, and I know that I've grown and matured, and so just very emotional. The amount of work and blood and sweat. I mean, I work hard for all my books, but this one just took so much out of me. So that was very emotional for me. And the second one is I'm planning my wedding, which is very stressful, but the actual thing of getting to marry somebody that I adore and who adores me is great. So that's giving me joy.
mhm. Excellent, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Um, you're welcome. What is something you want to try for fun?
Ooh, that's a really oh, I would love to be in a musical, be in an ensemble.
Mm,
When I was younger, I loved like theater and I loved being on stage. And I did it a little bit in school, but then, just things just get lost as you grow up. But
yeah.
I, I would love to do singing lessons, first of all. I think I have a great base for starting singing lessons. I've got like, it's not great voice, but I know that with training, I could be fine. I'll be a great
Mhm.
chorus member. And I want to dance. I want to just dance and sing on stage and as part of this collective. I just love musical theatre so much. And I think it's just so fun and it's just such great accessible theatre. So yeah, that's what I would love to do for fun. Like if there was a local, listen, let me know. If there's a local London, I don't know, amateur group that's doing musical theatre, let me know. Because I think it'll be a great outlet for me that's not tied to my career or anything?
Ooh, I love that. I'm gonna listen out for that. I know some theater people all over the country because I've had a few as guests on the podcast.
Oh,
If I hear about it, I'm gonna drop you an email. I'm not even kidding.
please.
I certainly will.
Sure.
Do you have a quote that represents or brings you joy?
Or do I have a quote that brings me joy? I don't know if it's well, I feel like yeah, I think Toni Morrison said something like where I am is the mainstream. And it's a great reminder as a Black romance author. It's so weird how you're not included in so many conversations. And I think that my writing also sits in a very strange space because there's romance, but it's also not strictly romance. There's like a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
other stuff going on. And so people get very confused about where to put me. And then add the fact that I'm Black on top of that, it's like, okay, you're left out of the romance conversations. You're left out of like the whatever you call it, literary fiction conversations. Um, and people try to put you in a box. And, but when you remember that you are the mainstream, they will come to you. Like you are not a marginalized whatever. You are it. It's such a great reminder for me.
I love that. What is something that always makes you laugh?
Oh God, what is something that always makes me laugh? Let me think. I'm trying to think of shows that I watch. 'Cause there's like the thing is there's actually so much. Let me think. Okay, I'll say the last. I think it's easier for me to say the last thing that made
Yeah.
last thing that made me laugh was Abbott Elementary, which I adore. and that's created by the wonderful Quinta Brunson. And it's such a joyful show, and it's about teaching, and my mum's a teacher, and so it's so relatable for me. And I know Quinta's mum is a teacher as well, and it pays
Mm.
homage to teachers at the same time as just being really, really funny, because kids are really, really funny, and it's just a thing
Mhm.
that just gives me unadulterated joy. So yeah, that
Fantastic. And what is something that you dread but always feels good afterwards?
running, running, running for sure. I've just taken up jogging, and it's been really good for my writing process actually. I say running very lightly. It's actually jogging.
Right,
Um,
right, right, right.
but it really does wonders in opening up my mind. And unfortunately,
Mm,
it is true when you are connected to your body, it does help the creative process.
really does.
So that is something, yeah, that is something. And also writing my acknowledgements.
Mm,
I dread it because it's just like, I don't dread it. It's a weird thing. It's like almost signifies the end of a process. So I put it off a lot of the time because writing a book is so emotional. It's been my whole life. And then writing the acknowledgement just feels like, oh, the closing of the door. But when I write it, I find so much joy in remembering the people that helped me, create the book. And when I finish it, I feel very proud of my community and the team. So
I
yeah,
love
that.
that. That's amazing. Now I know your time is limited, so I thank you so much for
Thank
joining me.
you. This was great.
Mm, that's great. The
Yeah.
question you said
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Um, you said a couple of times that you found Sweet Heat a lot more difficult to write.
Yes.
Um, why was that?
Where do I even begin? Um, it's
Sorry.
it's a it's a sequel, so sequels are
Mm,
very notoriously hard. Um, so you have all of this audience with an expectation, and you kind of, unfortunately, you just have to, fortunately or unfortunately, you have to block it out. But it gets you sometimes because people are, and then there's a couple that people are very invested in, thankfully. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a book. But because they're invested in, they have all of these expectations. So you have to block out those expectations. Then there's a second chance romance of it all. You're writing about a couple who broke up for good reason. And they have to make it so when they get back together, it's not, you're like, oh, I get why they're getting back together. And I also understand
mm,
why they broke up. And them getting back together is not a regression. It's not a spoiler, it's a romance. There's a journey, there's a
mm,
journey in it. And there's a
yeah.
lot of complex emotions, because
Mhm,
what they felt individually was valid. Writing a breakup where each side is justified, it's very, very hard. Where you don't want anyone to blame anyone. You want everyone to be able to understand where everybody, like, both parties are coming from. And you also have to write them falling in love again, or maybe realizing they're still in love with each other whilst denying it and
mm,
constantly battling and doing this game and this dance of like, oh, I love him. Oh, he hurt me. Oh, I love her. Oh, I'm still hurting. These kind of things. It's a tightrope and you're constantly battling and you're hoping that the reader isn't getting bored or like getting frustrated, or maybe they are
well,
frustrated and that's good.
I
Um,
can't hold who wasn't frustrated by certain who
yes.
wasn't bored.
Yeah. You have to be frustrated because it's frustrating for them as well.
Oh,
You know?
of course. Absolutely. Oh, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I can tell you now that we're at the end. Like, you are one of my dream guests. I make a list of dream guests
Oh,
ongoing.
thank
And as
you. I'm
soon
so
as
happy we could do it.
I'm so glad to. As soon as and I did, when I first got introduced to Kikimalka, it was the audiobook. The narrator
Oh,
was fully incredible. And I was just like,
great. And she's
oh,
doing the second one as well.
I cannot,
Yeah.
even though I read it, I'm like, I am ready for that audiobook. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thank you.
time. This
This
has
was
been
so much fun.
incredible.
Your questions were
And yeah,
great. Thank you so much.
oh, you're welcome. And the audience, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us today. You can find out more about our guests in the show notes below. And don't forget to hit subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Until next time, I send you big love.